Hey, what is up? We're here with another episode of Spotlight. And Nick, you have our special guest today, Margot Robbie.
Yes.
Um, but we're going to talk about her whole entire career, spanning from the first film we saw her in, which is Wolf of Wall Street. Now, Nick, when you first saw this film, did you see it in theaters or just kind of later on, catching up to it? And
Yeah, I
what were your
saw it.
thoughts on her?
Yeah, I'm one of the ones who saw it like post dates. I saw it on TV. Crazy as hell film. I think like at that time I wasn't as like well versed in like film as I am today, so it wasn't something I went out of my way to watch. But I think it would have been great to watch it in theaters just for the insanity that happens in that film. And that is the first time that is what is that? I think is that the first time I saw Margot? It might be the second time because I think I saw Suicide Squad first and then I saw like Wolf of Wall Street like after it. But yeah, it's a great film and she manages to hold her own in it, which is like really just impressive just because there's on a story level there's so much happening just between the two like male leads of Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio. There's so much happening, but she holds her own like really well.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, can you imagine as at least I remember it's her first major role, and she's starring with Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, maybe the most not necessarily awarded because somehow he only has one Oscar win,
Yeah,
um,
crazy.
but one
Most
of the
well
most
known.
prestigious,
Yeah.
yeah, well-known actors in Hollywood, and she kills it every single scene she's in. Her accent is spot on, right? I mean, you wouldn't even know where she's from the film.
Right.
Uh, and she brings an attitude and energy in every single film, and we'll talk about this in our next one too.
Mhm.
Whether it's as a supporting character, but she is great as a supporting character, or a lead.
She
It's
just
that same
yeah,
vibe.
she just managed to have like this like a fierce like presence, a very like just like very just like in the moment type person that you're like she's always like the one you take note of in the room no matter like who's in the room with you.
Was there a scene from Wolf of Wall Street that really like stood out to you, that where you it was like the moment where you knew that she was a great actress?
I think I'll mention too just for like the duality of it, the scene where she's like like messing around with like DiCaprio, the one where like they have the graduate shot like between her like legs or whatever, and then combine that later on where like she and DiCaprio having like a full out like fight, and it's like it culminates in like DiCaprio trying to like take their kid and there's like a car crash or something. Do you remember?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
Between those two scenes, like she managed to hit so much. It's like she has like the like this like subtle and like this subtle charm in the way of like a James Bond character, and then she can turn into a full like force of like nature like later on, and like DiCaprio's going crazy and she's going crazy, and again like she's just holding her own, and you feel like you know like this character of DiCaprio's is like this like rich guy who's gotten away with so much. You feel like this is the one person who can probably like beat his ass here and like could like stand up to him. And I believe that just between those two scenes, you get to see her entire like range. I mean, well, obviously there are other films we're going to be talking about that show more of that, but just in those two scenes alone, there's like you can just learn so much about her and what she can do.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that they with some actors you can tell in a film, like when a film has a character that has a range to it and that actor plays all like all sides of that role, you can kind of tell in a single film. I think when you see someone like Timothy Chalamet, like one role, you know that he's a great actor. You can just tell the range.
Right.
And we see more of that in the Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, which came out in 2016 and 2020, respectively. What were your thoughts of her in those roles? You said that was your first time seeing her as an actress. So, kind of, what was your reaction to her as Harley Quinn?
I like I feel like Harley Quinn may get some uh like flack these days just because she's appeared in so many stuff and just because she's become such a popular character, and I feel like that detracts from the fact that I generally think Margot Robbie is such a great fit. Like I feel like no matter what you think of these two films, and like no matter what you like, if you think like Harley is like overrated these days or whatever, like you can't deny that she is like a perfect fit for the character in the way that like Christopher Reeve was Superman or like Heath Ledger was the Joker. I think that she's just like hits the manic energy so well, and she could have easily just coasted on that, but through there are like little moments in like Squad and Birds where like she shows that more like broken aspect of the character, and it just like the ability to just like again like just jump between these two levels of the emotional spectrum is like something that I always held like that always really like impressed me. Like when I saw Squad in theaters, I was like, she's like definitely like the best part. I was alongside like Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. Like she really like just again just burst onto the screen, completely owned it. There's so many other actors in Squad and Birds like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Will Smith, Viola,
Jai
Ewan
Courtney.
yeah, Joker, even McGregor and Birds, like, and she's never feels like she's getting overshadowed. She always manages to hold her own and like keep up with everyone else, and everyone manages to, like only just managed to keep up with her.
Right. And I think one of the things is Will Smith's supposed to be the heart of their Suicide Squad.
Mhm.
Yet the takeaway wasn't Will Smith, though I actually like Will Smith in that role.
I do as
Uh,
well.
it was Margot Robbie. Everyone was talking about her after the film, like how great she was and how she needed her own film, right? I mean, now moving forward, who's the head of the Suicide Squad going into the next one? It's going to be Harley Quinn and
Yeah,
Margot Robbie. You know, she's the one who got her own spin-off movie because she was that popular. People liked her relationship with the Joker. I really thought that was because for me, when you're bringing back a character like the Joker, you have to make him a different character to keep it
right.
interesting.
Yeah,
And they did a really good job of doing that. And Harley Quinn contributed to that. And then she goes off on this own story, and she's just fun.
yeah,
Like she brings out this fun, goofy, killer attitude, right? That just works so well, and I buy it. Whereas, you know, there's some other characters in this film who I don't necessarily buy as much.
right. I feel
I'm
like
speaking to
yeah,
the Suicide Squad.
right. I feel like she's the type of character and the type of performance that Robbie gives is like a character who like has no plan going from like point A to point B, but you know she'll be okay just through like sheer improvisation, just through sheer force of energy. Like she'll like enter a building filled with like bad guys, like not knowing what she's gonna do, but you know she'll be fine just for sheer like force of nature. And also like Margot Robbie performed like crazy amount of stunts just between like these two movies. So like props to her. Like some of the stuff that Harley does, like holding her breath for 5 minutes, or like all the stuff on like the roller skates and Birds is crazy. So props to her again.
Let's talk about the roller skates and Birds because I want to move on. Actually, let's talk about Birds quick.
Okay.
Uh, I'm not a fan of Birds of Prey,
Okay.
but I'm a fan of Margot Robbie in the film. And so I'm left with this really frustrating thing of I love Margot Robbie's character. I love how she's acting in the role, but I don't love the story they're telling. You know, I don't think it's coming across the way they want it to, which is frustrating for me as a viewer and someone who loves Margot Robbie as an actress and Harley Quinn as a character.
Right.
But I think a testament to a great actor is how you can be like how good you are in a movie that people don't widely regard as a good film.
Mhm.
And I think that is something that really shows how great a actor is, because when you know a movie's bad, a lot of people will just phone it in.
Right.
But she never does in any of her roles, whether it's a small character or the main character. And I think that's a really impressive thing.
Right. Right.
Moving on, you talked about the rollerblades in
Yeah.
Birds of Prey, but in I, Tonya, which came out in 2017, before the rollerblades, she was skating,
Right.
playing a world-class skater. This is based on Tanya Harding. It's based off a true story. Also stars Sebastian Stan, Paul Walter Hauser, Allison Janney. Great cast. What were your thoughts on her in this film?
This is the film that she scored her first Oscar nomination, and honestly, like I think she had a good chance to win it, if not for that was Frances McDormand's year, right? Three Billboards. It was
Ooh, yes, I believe so.
okay. I feel like if it wasn't for Frances McDormand, I think Margot stood. I can't really remember who else was nominated that year, but I do think Margot had a really good chance because she throws like this was her first like lead role, and she throws it all in. She goes all out in this. She's again, she manages to just go like kind of like combining parts of Naomi, which is her character in Wolf of Wall Street, um, combining the aspects of Harley, where she's just this like energetic force, but it's very different from those previous two characters. This one is more like raw. This one is more like rugged. This more is like a scrappier type person, and I feel like all of that is just one, just very like charming in a like forceful type way. Like this the iconic scene where she's arguing with the judges and she just like suck my dick and she like walks away. I was like, oh my god. I was like, you are taking like you're taking no crap from anyone. You are like just completely going for it. And I love that. But also scenes like as to not spoil the movie as the plot like gets like crazier and her state in life gets more unbalanced. Like she slowly starts to like lose control of certain things. Like just that how she portrays that transformation. Like at first she's kind of like ignorant about it. She's like, it's not my problem. And then as it hits her that like everything is falling apart, just like how devastated she is, you just feel like really sad. And it's like she becomes such a shell of her former like hardened, scrappy fighter mode. And it's like really sad, like honestly, by the end. Like I think everyone talks about the makeup scene, the where she's
Right.
applying her makeup. Like that, I think that was what got her the nomination. I think even though it was like 50 seconds long. But I also want to point to the scene where she's like talking with the judge or whatever. There's like a lot of like cameras in the room. Like when the judge tells her, like gives her like a do you remember which one I'm talking about? He's like,
Which
you
one?
can't skate, and he can't. He's like, you can't skate anymore, and she's like begging him to.
Oh, okay.
Like that was another one where I thought,
Oh, in the courtroom. I thought you were
yeah, it's
talking
part
about
of
the
him, yeah,
skating
it's part
judge.
of him.
That's my bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Hey, but like that was another one that was just like she's gone through this whole transformation just from like portraying Tanya at her prime to now this like shell of the person, and like that was like so good. That was like a great performance all around.
Yeah, I love that scene that you're talking about now that I remember what you're talking about. Um, it's so heartbreaking and it almost tells the story of an athlete of any sport. And she plays that so well that like a lot of these athletes that play professional sports and play at this really high level, they have nothing else. Uh, and so it speaks to it's like it's her version of a forced retirement. I, and it's like, what do you do? I've been doing this my whole life. This is all I know how to do. And the way she portrays that makes you feel for someone. And I know it made me think about like, gosh, even beyond just, skaters, but any other sport, maybe these people make a ton of money while they're doing what they're doing, but a lot of these smaller sports, they don't. And it's like you dedicate your whole life to this, and then one day it's all over. And it's like, what do? There's nothing. They've literally been doing just this their whole life. And the way that she like brings us to that moment is it's heartbreaking, because it's like someone you've worked so hard your whole life, and you see her work so hard her whole life to do this, you know, getting to places in spite of being in a really difficult household and really having a tough upbringing with her awful mother, played terrifically by Allison Janney. But it's just the way she brings that across, whether it's the makeup scene that you're talking about. I mean, even the scene where she's worked her whole way there to the judges
Mhm.
and her laces aren't tied correctly.
Yeah, that one too.
And
Yeah.
she goes up there and she's just bawling her eyes out because everything she's worked for is this Olympic competition, right? And everything has gone wrong in her life in the past like 6 weeks. And the way she makes you go on an emotional journey uh, and feel for her and have a deep connection with her character is really a testament to her as an actress.
Right. Right.
So we're going to move on to one of her smaller roles, but also I think a really underrated role of hers, which is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which came out in 2019. I saw this in theaters. Shout out to my Coolidge Quarter Theater. Go support your independent cinema theater if you can.
Right.
And I adore this movie, but I think the joy that she brings to the role and the innocence that she brings to Sharon Tate's character is so I'm trying not to spoil the movie because this movie is a recent movie and it's not, I mean, it's kind of based off a true story.
Yeah, kind of.
So I don't want to spoil it, but the way she plays Sharon Tate with that joyful innocence and kind of the happiness of life of, you know, someone who's becoming a successful actress is so it's a testament to her acting that she can go from, you know, a really heartbroken, you know, struggling character to a really upbeat, happy character to Harley Quinn, who's just everywhere in between.
Mhm.
Uh, so, what were your thoughts when you saw her in Once Upon a Time?
I remember being like worried at first because this film came out at I believe it was Cannes, and someone like a few reviewers were like Margot Robbie like has like 5 lines in this movie, and I was like that's a pretty strange usage of such a great actress. But I was like I'll roll with it, and then I saw the movie and like it was true she had very minimal lines in compared to like the other actors in the movie, and even compared to other roles she's had, but like it didn't detract from it. There was like it took me a while like a while to like understand like why I like you said, like I enjoyed the role too, and it took me a while to figure out why I liked it so much, just because like it's not a very like big role both in terms of personality or like in terms of the story in such a way. Like Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's characters are like play a lot more around in the movie, but it was just like the aura and like the just the vibe she gave off, like scenes where she's just like dancing and like just living it up. Like you get such like all of that is just communicated through like her like that was sheer like joy and excitement and passion just communicated, and just the like just the vibe she gave off, it was just so genuine, it was so sweet, it made me so like um it just made me so appreciative of the actual Sharon Tate. It just made me so appreciative of Mark because like she was again, she wasn't speaking much, but she was just this she was just able to give off just through like body movements and through like face expressions that this was a person who was so like full of life and was so eager to like take on the future. I also think the scene where she goes to the movie theater and she watches herself, that's like for me, that's like the most heartwarming
Mm.
scene in the whole film. Like there's such like a genuine burst of like happiness like from her there.
Yeah, I mean, that I would agree. That was the scene I was going to bring up,
Mhm.
um, because her in that theater, just watching herself on the screen and being like, "That's me," and it's not like an egotistical thing. It's like a look at I'm proud of myself. Like I've
Mhm.
gotten this far, and there's like a joy to it, and just a general happiness that, you know, it's like a actor finally making it, and like their dreams are finally starting to become true.
Mhm.
And the other scene you talked about too is her dancing at that party in one of those big
Yeah.
LA houses. I can't remember if it's a crane shot or I think it's a crane shot.
Well, yeah, some like some sort of like overhead
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Uh, and just the way she dances and it's this massive smile on her face and she's by herself, but she's having like the blast of a lifetime.
Mhm.
Um, and it shows like how joyous a person could be. And it's those small roles, it's the small things she does. And you're right, it's the expressions and the body movement. And it doesn't matter that she has 5 lines because after the movie, you're thinking, you know, I wish I could have had more of her.
Yeah,
But it's not really that you need more of her in the story, right? She fits this role, her role in the story extremely well.
right.
Um, it's that she was that good, you wanted to see her more, even if it wouldn't make sense in the story.
Mhm.
I think that's also just a little side note.
Yeah.
Before you say, like people say, oh, I wish I could have seen more of this character, think about it in terms of the story and if it makes the story better, because a lot of times it wouldn't make a film better seeing more of that character.
Yeah. They might have Tarantino might have even like jumped the gun a little if they even like, included like more of her. I think the like just this what she symbolized in the story opposite like DiCaprio's character, for instance, like that, I think that alone justified how much she was utilized.
That's a great point and a great parallel between someone at the beginning of their career and someone at the end of their career. That's a amazing point to make, and she highlights that even more. But we're gonna move on to Bombshell. Nick, you saw Bombshell, correct?
Yes, I saw this in I think it was the last movie I saw in theaters actually in 2019.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, I saw it. I was on break. It wasn't Skywalker because
Oh, you saw it after.
I saw it after. I saw it after.
Oh, okay, I got you. Um, wow. Bombshell. So this is your last movie you saw in theaters. What sort of taste did it leave you after seeing this film, and does it make you want to go back to movie theaters?
Um, as an overall film, it's a pretty uncomfortable experience just from the subject material. Like I remember I went with my two friends, and you know the scene with like Margot and John Lithgow.
Oh my
Like
God.
I've never been more like anxious and like uncomfortable in like a movie theater like up until that point. Like that scene was awful to sit through, but it was like for the sake it was great for the sake of the story, like and what they were, telling, but that was an awful scene to sit through. So I felt a lot of the movie feeling like just anxious and like uneasy. But I mean, um I don't know. It was not too bad of a time. I mean, Charlize Theron and Nicole Kidman was also in it. So like just between that trio, by the way, Theron, Kidman, and Margot Robbie, like that's a hell of a trio right there. As for Margot in it, this was her second actually Oscar nomination. So I admit I wasn't expecting it, but like you know what I thought to myself I was like I'm okay with her getting nominated. She was definitely like a very charming and critical part to the movie.
This is interesting because this is one of the films where the acting performances sit well with me a lot more than the film does itself, just because of how the film was structured. I felt was a little weird. But we talk about the innocence she has in Hollywood, but she uses that innocence and then puts it, it's put into a situation where it creates this really stressful, difficult environment, toxic environment. Um, in the way she portrays that scene, how scared she is as a young person trying to rise in the ranks of a company, and everyone's enabling this guy to do what he does, like the disgusting, awful things that he does. In the way, she is our lens to the story in a lot of ways. And the way that she portrays that is how, it makes you feel the way the story should make you feel. She is that sort of driving character in the film. And it's just amazing every time I see her in a different role, how much I connect with her characters.
Yeah.
Um, whether it's the small quivers or her hand shaking,
Mhm.
or how she moves from one chair to moving to a chair that's closer to John Lithgow's character in that scene. In the way that she can show the hesitancy and the nerve.
Right.
It's all those little things that a world class actor does that
Yeah.
makes them such an amazing actor.
Like one of the other scenes too, there's a scene where a character like screws up or something like early in the movie and she like goes into the bathroom, like Kate McKinnon's following her and she like kind of is like freaking out in the bathroom. I don't know, like I thought that was another great one because she's showing like this emotional like haggardness, but like she hasn't like experienced like anything like bad yet, but it's just this like naive, like still like genuine person. She's like, I just want to work here. I just want to do good. And she's like panicking, and there's just like there's another again genuine sense of like, okay, you're like a real person with like a real like thing, and then she goes through this awful like traumatic series of events, and then that scene where she like breaks down outside of the restaurant, um like that, all of that just it just came together like really well, and for a movie that is like really the trio of the film is like Lithgow's character Theron and Kidman, and then Margot Robbie's like as a supporting, but like again she totally holds her own against like the people who have been in the industry for like longer than her.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's an amazing, it's a not an amazing is the wrong word. It's a crazy story, and it's a great performance by Margot Robbie. We forgot to do our favorite scene from the Suicide Squad slash the Birds of Prey. So
Like
before we wrap this up, what was your favorite scene of hers from the Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey?
I think I'm trying to think. Oh god, there are so many like just good lines that like she gets out in Squad. I think it might be just a small bit where she's talking with like the squad was just brought to the military camp, and like she just starts talking to herself out of nowhere, like completely unprompted. She just starts talking to herself, and everyone just like completely like like weirded out by it because she's like just going on her thing. That was just a great like Harley Quinn scene, and she just again she's there's so many people in that scene, but she is the sole source of attention, and she does great there. I think in Birds of Prey, I'm really partial to her like prison fight or to the scene where she assaults the police department and she kind of mows everyone down just for the sheer like physicality of it. Like I'm pretty sure she did at least most of like the flipping and the shooting and the running, and like I think she's also in like heels for half that fight, which blows my mind. But if that is true, I can't I might be remembering that wrong, but that is just you see the physicality, and then it's the squad scene, you just see her manic charisma just pop out.
Yeah, I think for me from Suicide Squad, ooh, it's tough. It's probably, I don't know what scene it is from the Suicide Squad. Gosh, it's probably the stuff with Joker. I love how her relationship develops with Joker over the very start of like getting the backstory of how she became Harley Quinn. It's just I don't know why a lot of people don't like that part of the film. That's actually part of the film that I do like, and how she kind of falls for this crazy twisted guy. That part's my favorite in the Suicide Squad, and in um, Birds of Prey, I think it's the scene where she gets drunk. She just gets super super drunk. I think she is so hilarious in that scene. That's the scene where she like jumps and breaks someone's leg, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that part had me like, oh, gross, and I'm also laughing at the same time. Um,
There's another like because the film cuts around like in the timeline, right? There's right before the Black Canary fight scene in the street, like she's also wasted there. And there's this great moment where she's like, I got this covered. She like sticks her hand out on the car door, but the car door like moves and she like completely like falls over. And I was like, that's just great, like slapstick humor. And again, just like she's still like charisma, and you're like, oh Harley, like
right.
um this great energy. Before
And
we
the
wrap, I just wanted to say one last thing and then you can wrap up. I was thinking like the thing that I think I love most about Margot, and because I consider like one of my favorite actresses. She's like top five for me. Is that like it's just the transformation over a film. Like you see like for instance like Robert Pat like we talked about this with Robert Pattinson, like how he role to role he's like a chameleon. Like The Lighthouse and Tenet, they're not the same character, but like in with Margot, like they just completely like are like in different stages. She spans the whole spectrum so effortlessly in all of her roles in all of her movies, and again, she just manages to hold her own, no matter who's in the room with her. And I think that's why, like, I don't know, that's why I'm just so excited to see what she does next. She's already doing so great, but excited to see what happens now.
Yeah, and I mean, she has a small role in The Big Short, which is just the one scener. That one scene is absolutely hilarious of how she describes shorting bonds. But I was surprised. The one thing as we're wrapping up that she's only been in a few like films that are well known. I was like, oh, she has to have a massive filmography by now. I'm like, oh my god, she's like not been barely been in anything. So I really hope that in the upcoming years she starts to get a lot more opportunities to be in these big, not necessarily big as in like blockbuster comic book films, but also these other action films or more dramas like I, Tonya and Bombshell. I just need to see her. I want to see her in a lot more stuff. The same way Robert Pattinson. I want to see him in a lot more stuff. With that, that wraps up this episode of Spotlight talking about Margot Robbie. Don't forget and like and subscribe to the video and leave a comment down below if you have anything to say about us. And we'll see you next time.
Peace out.